Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's lecture is about hemostasis, that is, maintenance of nearly constant internal environment of the body. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to explain homeostasis, what is the relation between homeostasis and body fluids, what is the concept of disrupted homeostasis, how different body systems they play a role in maintaining homeostasis, and the brief concept of the feedback system that basically controls the nearly constant internal environment in the body. We define homeostasis as the maintenance of nearly constant condition in the internal environment. This term homeostasis was first coined by Walter Cannon in 1928, and he was American physiologist who first coined this term. Homeostatic mechanisms keep things within a range of values rather than at fixed values. So for everything in the internal environment of the body, there is a normal range that ranges from one point to next. So that is sometimes it is very narrow range, sometimes it is a little big range. For some ions, as I mentioned, this range is extremely small. If we take example of the hydrogen ions, and for hydrogen ions, this range in which its concentration in the body fluids is kept nearly constant is less than 5 nanomoles. And for sodium, in comparison to hydrogen, this range is wide. It is between 135 to 155 milliequivalent per liter. And if we compare these two ranges, the sodium range is about 1 million times more wide than hydrogen ions. So, as we mentioned, the homeostasis, it maintains nearly constant internal environment in the body. The examples of this are like kidneys, they maintain constant ionic concentration. Like GIT, it provides nutrients. Lungs provide oxygen to tissues. To replenish O2 that is used. There is very close relationship between homeostasis and body fluids, as according to the definition of homeostasis, the homeostasis is maintenance of nearly constant internal environment in the body. And the internal environment in the body, in the previous lectures, we labeled that it is the internal environment we labeled as it is extracellular fluid. So homeostasis basically maintains the volume and composition of body fluids, where in the extracellular fluid. The proper functioning of body depends upon precise regulation of composition of the interstitial fluid. Now we are reaching at more specific point that the interstitial fluid is basically, it maintains internal environment. Why? What is the reason that interstitial fluid is called internal environment? The reason is that the it is the internal interstitial fluid whose composition changes when fluid and ions and other things move between cells and blood vessels. And such exchange occurs especially for provision of glucose, oxygen, ions, and so on. And it is the interstitial fluid that removes waste produced by the body cells. In the presence of disease, the homeostasis maintains vital functions. Sometimes, in the maintenance of these vital functions, the homeostatic mechanisms homeostatic mechanisms deviates from normal range. The pathophysiology of diseases explains how various processes are altered in disease and injury. The next is a role of different body systems in the maintenance of homeostasis. The first we will describe the ECF transport and mixing function, and it is performed by the blood circulatory system and it occurs in two steps. Step 1 and step 2. Step 1 is first the things like oxygen, it moves through blood vessels. In the second step, the oxygen comes out of blood capillaries and is delivered to cells. The second is origin of nutrients in the ECF. And for this function, four things they play a role. First is the role of respiration, as it provides oxygen. The second is the role of GIT. It helps in the absorption of nutrients. Third is the role of liver, that performs metabolic functions. And fourth is the musculoskeletal system. The musculoskeletal system's role in origin of nutrients is that it helps in the achievement of nutrients, and without the musculoskeletal system it is not possible. Then is the removal of waste. The removal of waste to maintain normal homeostasis is function of kidneys, GIT, lungs, liver, and skin. Then is regulation of functions. The regulation of functions, this homeostatic function is achieved by two systems. The first one is nervous system and second one is endocrine system. The nervous system basically performs two functions, and these two functions of the nervous system regarding regulation includes muscular and secondly to control secretory activities. And in the performance of these two functions, the nervous system number one, it stores information. Number two, it generates thoughts. Number three, it creates ambitions. Number four, it determines reaction. And in the nervous system, there is another part of the nervous system, that is autonomic nervous system. And autonomic nervous system, it regulates activities at subconscious level. like pumping of the heart, like movement of contents in GIT, while the endocrine systems, it is composed of glands that produce hormones, and those hormones, they control metabolic activities like insulin controls glucose level, parathyroid, it controls calcium homeostasis, like thyroid, it determines rate of chemical reactions, and so on. The next homeostatic function of body is protection of the body. And in provision of protection of the body, two body parts or systems, they play a role. First of them is the immune system, and second one is the skin that provides protection and acts as barrier. The immune system, it performs its function through general and specific processes. In the performance of specific processes, the B and T lymphocytes, they helps to fight against invading organism. Then is the reproductive function. The reproductive function, the role of reproduction function is to generate new ones. Now, this diagram is about the extracellular fluid transport function. It occurs, as we mentioned, it occurs in two steps. This is step 1. Step 1, in which the oxygen, it moves into the circulatory system, and then heart pumps it, and then the pumped blood, it flows through the arterial system to reach all the tissues of the body, and oxygen then diffuses out from the capillaries, it diffuses out, and it is provided to the cells. And in the second step, this second diagram shows basically the second step, in which you can see the oxygen, it comes out, O2, it comes out at the arterial end. This red color, it shows the arterial end of capillaries. Then this oxygen is used by the cells, and cells after use, they produce carbon dioxide that comes in the extracellular space, that is interstitial fluid, and then from the interstitial fluid, it moves towards the venous end of the capillaries, and through veins, it is passed to the right ventricle, and then from the right ventricle, the blood passes to the lungs, and it is again oxygenated. So according to this discussion, the homeostasis is basically continually disturbed. When it is continually disturbed, there are certain cells that are called receptors. They sense that change and convey that change to the center. And from the center, either it passes to the nervous system or it passes to the endocrine system. And sometimes they work together or they work independently to generate corrective measures. And this loop is basically called feedback system. And the function of feedback system is that there are two important characteristics of this feedback system. That number one, it restores balance, and second is the feedback system is always, its action is intense and it is prolonged so that the homeostatic environment can be brought back. So the control of homeostatic environment, it is provided by the feedback system. And in the feedback system, when it becomes activated when some stimulus, it disrupts the homeostasis. And how we define stimulus? What is stimulus? We define stimulus as anything that disrupts normal homeostatic condition is called stimulus. The stimulus is passed on, or you can say it is monitored by the receptors that send signals to the control center. And the control center is usually nervous system. And the nervous system then produce effect that passes to the effectors, and effectors, they bring about the change or response that alters the controlled condition back to normal. So in this way, the feedback system, it is basically cycle of events. It is basically cycle of events that number one monitors change, number two it produces change, number three it evaluates, number four it remonitors, number five it re-evaluates, and so on to produce or maintain nearly constant internal environment. And this whole scenario is basically called feedback system. Thank you very much, dear students. In the next lecture, we will study the types of feedback system with examples. Thank you.